What's up everybody, the Fish Tank Guy here, and today I'm going to be showing you the new storage rack that I'll be using for my brand new project that, if you are watching this video, you have heard about by now, in which I'm going to be stacking 4 20 gallon fish tanks on top of each other and, connecting them all up and whatnot, having a sump on the bottom. So what I purchased here is the Edsel storage rack. It is 34 wide, 14 deep, and 72 high. I found this to be the perfect storage rack for these tanks, spacing them out, making sure I have enough room to clean the tanks, get my arm in there. It's actually a little bit taller than I need it to be, so I'm going to work on possibly modifying it. And this is a 5-shelf system, and I'm only going to be using 4 shelves. But I'm going to show you guys what the rack is like. Just going to put it together, let you know about any hiccups or hang-ups or anything that you might need to do differently if you purchase the same rack for yourself, and that's about it. So here we go. Now, before I talk about the actual build of the rack, one thing I want to mention is if you decide to purchase this model of storage rack, you definitely want to buy the Edsel connector braces. This is it. Now, the reason you want to buy this, and the thing that I got burned on, is this 5-shelf unit forces you to put the middle shelf in between the 2 brackets. Now, unfortunately, if you want your tanks to be easily accessible and you don't want them to be blocked by any of these braces or things like that, having that middle shelf right at 36 inches is not a good height. So if you buy these braces, these connectors, I believe they're like $7 on Amazon. I'll put a link in the description below. That will allow you to put all the shelves wherever you would like to put them, and then you can space them out evenly, and your tanks are going to be nice, and they won't be blocked, and it won't be hard to get to them or anything like that. Okay, so that's the first thing you want to keep in mind. Now, secondly, what I found here is the sweet spot for the area between shelves is a little over 18 inches. Now you'll know because it's either going to be a little over 18 or about 17 depending on where you put it in. So you're going to want to go a little over 18. This gives you good access into the tank. You can easily put your arm in and down to be able to clean, move stuff in and out. So that is pretty much the perfect height to, place your shelves on the unit. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to connect the braces here, show you a little bit about that, put the next tank up on top, and take you through the rest of the build of this cool shelf. All right, so now I've finally got the shelf put together, and I went from, I kind of skipped a step there because in between the last segment and this segment, I recorded, an in-between segment, but I had the microphone turned off, so I had no audio. So that went out the window, and now I'm just doing this, right? So anyway, let's see. As you can see, I have the connectors in place here. Those are the extra pieces that I mentioned earlier in the video that you definitely want to pick up to be able to place your shelves evenly wherever you want. You're not restricted to have that middle shelf in between the 2 brackets on the side. Now, there's not really all that much to this build. I will say that the only thing you really need is a hammer, and you're going to need a piece of spare throwaway wood here. This is in a part of a 2x4, and you essentially just use this whenever you're hammering your brackets or braces into place. Because without this, if you're hammering right on the metal, you're going to bend it up, you're going to nick it up, it won't look all that great. Plus, if you bend it enough, it might cause some issues when you're assembling other parts of the shelving unit together. Now, as you can see, this looks like it's like, hey, wow, that shelf was like the perfect height. Actually, I did cut off pieces of the side brackets here. I cut off 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of the holes worth. I don't know what you call it, 5 whatever. So the shelf would essentially be that tall. I don't know if you can get it all in the frame there. The shelf would essentially be that tall, but I cut it off so it looks like it was meant to be that height. Now, I used a jigsaw with a blade that is, compatible with cutting through metal. Now, the one tip word of advice I would give you is if you choose to do that, don't cut the side bracket off at the top. Because if you cut it off at the top, you're going to get sharp edges and you'll need to file it down and round it out and smooth it, and that's just another extra step. Cut it off at the bottom of the bracket because that part of the bracket's going to be going into the connector, and you don't really care if it's sharp because you're never going to be touching that, right? So that's where that stands. Now, the only other thing I'll say is before you move forward and set all your tanks up and get them filled, I'm going to create another video talking to you a little bit about using some contact paper to essentially make these shelves kind of waterproof, because you will inevitably have water coming out of your tank, or when you're cleaning it, some water will be running down the sides of the tank, whatever. And due to the type of material of these shelves, you definitely don't want them getting wet because it could compromise the integrity of the shelf, and then you'd get that shelf break in and then crash all the way down, and it would be a total freaking disaster, right? So you don't want to do that. So I'll talk about that in another video. But as far as this video goes, I'll do a quick pan here while I'm talking and show you top to bottom. This shelf is really awesome for this kind of build. I don't even know what I'm going to call this yet. Maybe like fish tank tower or something. I don't know. But it's really awesome because the tanks fit right on the shelf perfectly. There's a little bit of extra space on either side, but there's not a lot of wasted space. So if you have a smaller apartment or a smaller room that you're trying to do a nice build in and get a lot of tanks, get a lot of bang for your buck in terms of floor space, this is perfect. It's just a little bit bigger than the tanks themselves, which is exactly what you would want if you're trying to put it into a smaller space. So with that being said, if you have any questions, feel free to let me know, but it's a pretty straightforward build. You shouldn't have too many issues when you put it together, and everything just kind of worked itself out just nice. So without further ado, I am the Fish Tank Guy. I'd like to thank you so much for checking out my channel, checking out this video, checking out this series, giving me your feedback, your opinions, your advice. I'm going to need some advice with some of these builds here because I'm going to be drilling tanks, which I've never done before, and I'm going to take you guys through the whole process. So thank you once again for checking out these videos, and until a future Fish Tank Guy video, I will see you guys soon.